Yeah, good to go. Thank you, Addy, and hello everyone. My name's Catherine Clarke, and I am a senior GIS consultant in the professional services team here at Esri UK. And I'm going to tell you a bit about my journey to get here. I didn't join the grad scheme, I joined Esri UK a bit later on, so a bit of a different experience to Amy and Chris, but lots of similarities in the beginnings, I think. So firstly, a bit about me. If the cover photo of my story map didn't give it away, I really love the mountains, and that's sort of my happy place. I also love maps, which is probably quite a common thing in the audience of today's webinar, I think. I like getting outside, whether that's on my bike or doing a bit of running as well. This photo is from the Great North Run. I grew up in the Northeast, so it was really great to do that local event. And my journey begins when I headed to uni. So I grew up in Durham and I decided that I wanted a bit of a change of scene for university, and I headed down to London. So I went to King's College London and I did a geography degree, a physical geography degree there. And yeah, I guess, as I said, it was a bit of a change of scene from quite a rural upbringing. But I really enjoyed discovering London and also discovering GIS. So I hadn't come across GIS at school. The first time I tried it was at university. And yeah, it was, I guess, one of those things that a lot of my friends on my course, it was either a love-hate thing with GIS, I think. I was definitely in the, this is a really cool tool and I'd like to find out more. So just another picture there of my commute to uni was walking across Waterloo Bridge. So yeah, really lucky to get the chance to live in central London during university. But a bit more about the GIS. So unfortunately, I didn't get to go on a field trip to Ethiopia, but it was the study area of my dissertation, which was all around remote sensing, looking at land classification around a series of dams. So some of my outputs on ArcMap, and one figure that I'm particularly proud of is my digitisation of the flooded area. And this took me probably hours to create on ArcMap back in the day, but I still look back at it and glad I spent the time doing that. And I suppose doing my dissertation, it began to get me thinking, actually, I really love research, you know, could I actually have a career in research? Maybe I wanted to do a master's or a PhD, but ultimately I wasn't really quite sure. And really, a bit of luck happened to me. One of my friends at university told me they were applying for a summer placement at the Met Office, and there was still some places available, including a GIS summer placement. So I thought, okay, that sounds like probably a worthwhile thing to apply for. I'll just apply and see what happens. And I got that placement, which was 6 weeks down in Exeter, working in the GIS team. And really, this was the first experience I had of what GIS in the working world was like, which was pretty different to what I'd done at university. You know, I don't think at this stage I even really understood what a server was, and you needed to have servers to make all these systems run in a big organization. So yeah, a big learning curve. There was some really interesting projects I worked on, but I suppose one of the things that happens during your career, the timing isn't always right. And the time I was at the Met Office, they had a hiring freeze, so they weren't taking on any permanent members of staff following the summer placements. So I'd had a really great summer doing a job that I really was beginning to find my feet in, but I knew it was coming to an end. So I had the decision to try and think of what was next. And yeah, something I didn't expect to be doing is I became an aerial surveyor for the Environment Agency. So my job was flying around in a little plane like this one, collecting LiDAR data and also aerial imagery. So it had that connection to the remote sensing that I'd really enjoyed at university, but I was actually the one going out capturing the data, which definitely had its perks. I saw lots of amazing sunrises and sunsets, but there were also aspects to that role that didn't really suit me. I had to work night shift. Often the weather in the UK is more settled at night, and you can capture LiDAR night or day. So that was quite difficult to adjust my body clock to working night shifts. We also had to work every other weekend, and I think really, yeah, I knew it wasn't a job that I wanted to do really long term. So again, I began to sort of explore if there were any other options at the Environment Agency. And luckily for me, there was an opening down in Bath in the projects team of the same department I was working in, so a department called Geomatics at the Environment Agency. So they do lots of remote sensing and GIS analysis for the wider Environment Agency. My role wasn't particularly doing much GIS, so it was more of a project management type role. And although I learned lots of new stuff and I got my Prince 2 project management qualification, again, it didn't feel quite right for me, and I missed the sort of hands-on GIS that I'd done previously. This, again, the timing was not good for me. I was covering someone who was on secondment and they were due to come back. So this contract was ending. And again, I had to sort of think, well, what should I do now? And in another sort of unusual turn, I ended up working for the police. So this was over in Portishead, just on the Bristol Channel in the southwest. And again, I never thought leaving university that working for the police would be an opportunity that would be available to, a GIS professional. But when you start thinking about it, oh yeah, okay, there's a spatial element to crimes, and they want to analyse the patterns of crimes, analyse where the resources should be across the force area. There's lots of good uses of GIS. For me, I think I suppose I'd always thought of myself as a physical geographer. I was interested in the environmental side of geography, and this working in public safety didn't quite feel like the right fit for me. I was really lucky during this time. My line manager became a really great mentor for me and someone who I've stayed in touch with. And I did learn lots about the technology, which ultimately helped me in my future jobs. But I suppose some things I liked was I moved to Bristol, so I was commuting out to Portishead, which wasn't too far, but it was this picture is from a very early morning sunrise when I decided that I wanted to see if I could cycle to work. But 12 hilly miles later, I decided that it was probably easier just to drive to work rather than try to cycle. So I sort of felt my time at the police was coming to an end. I was living in central Bristol and a job came up at Bristol City Council. Now, this coincided almost exactly with my first week being just as the first COVID lockdown hit. So this is a picture of the one-bed flat me and my partner used to live in, with the only desks we had available in our house, working in very close proximity. And I think, COVID was a really difficult time for many people. And for me personally, I was trying to start this new job. I couldn't meet my colleagues. I couldn't meet anyone else in the council. And I think I never really found sort of my place there and found that I fit. So yeah, this was quite, I guess, an unusual time. I perfected my banana bread recipe, as I'm sure many of us tried, new baking habits. And although the location and everything, it seemed on paper it was going to be a really great job for me, it again didn't feel right and it didn't quite work out in the end. And that's when I saw the opportunity at Esri UK. So the job vacancy was in the pre-sales team. Now, when I saw this, I thought, okay, I'm not a pre-sales type person. I don't like public speaking. I'm quite shy and reserved. I don't know if this is going to be for me. But talking to a friend who worked at Esri UK, I sort of got to ask all the questions I had, and ultimately I was looking for something new, and I decided to just take a chance and see what happened, and I'm very glad I did, being here nearly 3 years later. The job Esri UK is based, the HQ is in Aylesbury. I decided that I wanted to stay home based. I felt very settled in Bristol, and it wasn't going to be too far to get to Aylesbury for team meetings and things like that. I have since, just to complete my tour of the UK, moved right up north to Stirling in Scotland. So I moved up here just at the start of the summer. To be closer to the mountains. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm quite outdoorsy, and that's where all my hobbies are. And this final picture here is Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. So Esri have an office in Edinburgh. It's a short train journey for me into Edinburgh, so I try to go into the office about once a week. And for me, this is a really nice balance of living somewhere where I get access to the Highlands and I can go out and enjoy the outdoors, but also keeping that connection with my colleagues at Esri UK. And I mentioned here secondments as well. I'll tell you a bit more about my secondment in a second. So as I mentioned, I joined Esri UK into the pre-sales team. I suppose the bit that did feel very natural for me in this role was that I was supporting customers in our government sector, and my previous job experience, I was the person in those shoes. So I knew how they felt, I knew the challenges they faced. And yeah, I think that was quite a natural transition for me. I suppose working in the private sector, I'd always, in my previous roles, thought I wanted to be in the public sector. You know, would the private sector be really cutthroat? Would it be, you know, the people not be as nice? And that couldn't have been further from the truth. Everyone at Esri UK is really welcoming, really friendly, and I've met so many like-minded people. It's really helped me feel settled, especially being home-based. I think that's really important. So I spent about a year, I think, maybe a bit less, as a customer success consultant in the pre-sales team. I then took on the responsibility of being the lead for government, which essentially meant I was now program managing all our pre-sales activities for the government sales team. So that was managing a small team of 3 pre-sales consultants, delegating work, working on our pre-sales strategy, generally taking more responsibility for that. And shortly after, I was promoted to a senior customer success consultant. So I was a bit more involved in the management of the wider pre-sales team and supporting graduates when they rotated into the team, taking on additional responsibilities like line management. And then more recently, just during the summer, I had the opportunity to do a 6-month secondment into our professional services team. So this is the professional services team work on projects for our customers. So it's a bit more hands-on technical, which is something I felt that I was missing in my pre-sales role. So after doing this secondment for 6 months, I decided that actually this seemed like a better fit for me, and I asked if there would be the possibility to move into this role permanently. And I'm very pleased to say that I have been able to make that move permanently. So yeah, I guess I've put here the next chapter begins. I'll see where this takes me. But essentially, just because you don't join on the graduate scheme doesn't mean you can't try out different departments, and secondments are actively encouraged at Esri UK. So that's really nice to have that opportunity. So I suppose looking back at my time at Esri UK, I've just picked out a few highlights. So this first one is me and my colleagues James presenting at our annual conference. And yeah, I guess as I mentioned, I really thought I was not the type of person to be up on stage presenting. And it's one of those things that I'll always find it scary, but I think, challenging yourself and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is really valuable. And yeah, it's an experience that I've really appreciated having the opportunity to try. I guess, so this is me and one of my old colleagues, Phil, catching up at the conference. And I suppose that's another thing I like about working in GIS. It is a community, and you do get to know people in the community. And I suppose I've moved through quite a lot of different roles, but those connections you make with the people you work with, they stay much longer as well, which is really nice. And Claudia mentioned our Women in Geospatial network. This is a picture from our recent Scottish conference. Molly on the left here and myself helped organise this panel session with Shona from the Scottish Government and Helen from the Crown Estate Scotland. And it was a really great breakfast session before the start of our conference, hearing about their experiences, really trying to nurture this women community in Scotland. So that was an opportunity I really enjoyed getting involved with. This is a picture of our Edinburgh office. So one of the things I've really enjoyed is being able to go into the office, get to know people. It's a really nice space. And as you can see, it's not just all hard work. We do have games and stuff too. And we host events at our Edinburgh office. So this is the Geo Mob that was there recently. So this is a community of geospatial people who get together, and this happens in cities all around the world. If you just Google Geo Mob, you can find out more about it. But I suppose being home-based, sometimes you do feel a bit isolated from what's going on. So I think for me, living a bit closer to an office, having that opportunity to go in, to be involved at events like this, that's something I really value. And then this is a picture from just a few weeks ago. We had our Scottish PS Day of Fun, which was trying to surf. In my case, I'm very much not a surfer. In the cold water, it was only 8 degrees water temperature, but we did all have thick wetsuits. But again, having opportunities to get to know your colleagues a bit better outside of the work environment is really something I enjoy. And ultimately, I've found an employer who is flexible about having home-based employees. So this was my run at lunchtime today, looking at the view of the snowy mountains from Stirling. But I also get the opportunity to go into that Edinburgh office and network with my colleagues too, which I really enjoy. And just to finish off, I guess a few little takeaways for me and what I've learned during my journey is there's no one size fits all career path. I think in my early career, I worried, I'd gone through quite a few jobs. Some of my friends, they had left uni and they had been in the same job ever since they left. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Why can't I find a job that works? And I think you just need to keep looking, and if something doesn't feel right, then you're not stuck in that. You can look for the next opportunity and just keep an open mind. And I think I don't regret any of the decisions I made. I learned a lot of useful things from all the jobs I did, and ultimately that gave me the experience that I now use in my role today. My second one is there is more to a job than just the work. So I have to thank Addy for introducing me to this concept. Ikigai, apologies if I've pronounced that wrong to anyone who knows how it should be pronounced. But yeah, this diagram on the right sort of sums it up there. there's lots of things that need to align to make you happy as a person, and your job is part of that, but also all the other stuff in life that goes around that is also important too. And yeah, I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of this now, which is really nice. And then, yeah, thirdly, I've also already mentioned it, but do step outside your comfort zone and try new things. It's definitely the most valuable experiences I've had are from, yeah, the things that I found the hardest. So yeah, I will end on that, and I'll hand back to Addie or Claudia.